Okay.
Okay. So welcome everyone. I will declare the meeting open. Then we have just one apology from Councillor Beasley. Okay. We have confirmation of minute.
Yeah.
Oh, we do. Beg your pardon. I also move.
Second.
Okay, thank you. So confirmation of minutes of the previous meeting. Any comments or questions? You good?
I'm happy to move it.
Move, I'll second. Those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay. Declarations of interest. Any changes or anything that needs to be noted or up to date? Okay, I'll so move.
Second.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Right. Good. Right, policy register. And this is Alex. Good morning.
Good morning, Chair, Tina Koto, Nami here to Kia Koto Koto. Acknowledgements of the last meeting of the team. I'm really excited to bring you the new policy and strategy register today. You'll see it's quite different to the last one. I made quite a big claim to you about 18 months ago when the Cadogan asked to colour code the expired policies that we would just bring them into date instead. We're most of the way through that phase now. We're up to 88.89% of policies in date today, or 87.76 when the report was generated on the 30th of August. There are currently 11 items on the register that are out of date. 3 of those are long-standing and expected to remain out of date, and the 2 water policies on hold through the 3 waters process and the district plan. The other items have all got plans in place to bring them into date and are expected to do so around mid next year. That means we're moving to the next phase of putting the systems in place to keep them in date and start those processes earlier. Part of that will involve the policy on policies that will come to the first audit and risk meeting of the next term, and that will include the timeframes and targets that you'll see starting to appear on the register. So, with that background in place, the current report as of the 31st of August is that Council had exceeded the 80% target at 87.76. 3 of the 5 departments had met or exceeded the target, and the remaining departments were within 2%. People and Culture have since updated and are now sitting at 85%. The CEO department sitting at 100. There's a few governance policies in there that will expire shortly, and they'll all roll over through the election process. They're all on track to do so. And I've since added the housing typologies policy in the same business. Corporate Services has 2 policies currently out of date, and one is on the agenda today and will go to Council for approval tomorrow, and procurement will work through. Looking ahead, all policies due to expire for the next 6 months are underway or programmed for renewal until we're coming through the December meeting. Infrastructure sitting at 84.21%. The roading policies out of date has been delayed through the recruitment process, but the review has begun, and the timeframe will be very dependent on when the roading manager is in place. The Water Services Act will come into force from the 14th of November 2022. With the requirement to have and maintain water safety plans. So you'll see those have now come into the register. People and Culture were sitting at 78.57%, and they have the projected disclosures whistleblowers policy on the agenda today. The staff interest policy will be brought to the December meeting and the December council meeting. And finally, Planning and Environment are sitting at 78.95%. The 3 policies out of date have been programmed.
That looks so good. Big amount of I can see that and getting everything tidy and great to you keeping track of everything. So well done. So any questions or comments?
No, just sorry. No, I was just going to say it's great to have it. Thank you. I'm just a little bit concerned about roading being behind, because that's a big part of our business, really, and I consider it as a business. And then that's it, you've got providing that we can get a new manager, so how long is that going to take, and how long will it take to get the policy back up to them?
That will truncate the policy, so even without the manager, Fiona has started reviewing it, and reviewing a couple of sections and some pieces of it. And then that process will obviously speed up considerably with the new roading manager, but even without one, we're aiming.
And I think the, having that explanation too is really good. It's taken it, yeah. That's it. Right, so we're just to note that, aren't we? Okay, so I will so move.
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. So we've got a protected disclosure whistleblower policy. Okay.
And from John, you've got a I had a bit Kirsty Josh, the new person.
Hello, welcome.
Hello, Co-person Adams Takulwa, and I'm the new People and Culture Advisor here at CODC. And this is the first time that I've had to talk to all you lovely people, so please be patient with me. So what I'm here to do today is to give you a bit of an update on the protected disclosures and the background on the Act and policy. Talk to you a little bit about the review process and the legislation changes and policy changes, and any questions or feedback regarding these changes, and whether you would like to recommend a 1-year cycle review or alter it to a 3-year cycle. So the Protected Disclosures Whistleblowers Act 2020 facilitates the disclosure and investigation of serious wrongdoing in the workplace and provides protection for employees and other workers who report concerns. So the policy itself, we have a policy at CODC in place that establishes a framework by which wrongdoing may be reported and subsequent protections that are afforded to the disclosures. So the policy is applicable to all CODC employees and also elected members. So the review for this policy was due in June 2022. So unfortunately, there was a lapse in this policy due to staffing changes, but the old policy was still applicable, and we are committed today to getting an updated policy in place as soon as possible to meet the compliance of this. So we're hoping that this will go to council tomorrow. Obviously, that's not really ideal, as usually we'd like more time to put the feedback in that you may bring up. But what we'll do is to speak verbally to any of the feedback or changes tomorrow at the council meeting. So a soft review was completed over the last month, and the review comprised discussions around the current procedures with staff. And we also reviewed the legislation. Now, the legislation has also changed with us. So they have put a new act in place called Protected Disclosures Protection of Whistleblowers Act 2022. And this came into play on 1st of July. So we reviewed the current policy against the legislation, and in your agenda on page 36, you'll see a table which has got all of the changes and how it meets or doesn't meet the current policy. So the new legislation extended the definition of serious wrongdoing to include private sector use of public funds and also health and safety behaviour. It also allowed serious wrongdoing to be reported to authorities at any time, and the ability of an authority to decline or refer a disclosure. It strengthened the protection for disclosures by specifying what a receiver of a disclosure should do, and it clarified internal procedure requirements for public sector and provision of support, and clarified potential adverse forms of adverse conduct for disclosures. So the changes to the actual policy that we have made on page 38 to 45 of the agenda, we've highlighted it in yellow. So we did find that mostly our old policy was compliant with the new act. But we have added in some information there on support that's available for the disclosures. And we've also added in an appendix to the policy, which is the process as a receiver of a disclosure. So in closing, what I'd like to do now is to hand that back to the chair for any discussions or feedback around these changes and the possibility of moving this to a 3-year review cycle.
Okay. Any feedback?
Yeah, through the chair.
Mm.
Excellent, thank you. The only comment, and they're linked, is on page 43, the process as receiver. I note that there's 20 working days to acknowledge receipt. I'm picking that will be, I didn't check, I'm picking that is the minimum in the Act.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
It just, I wonder if we can do better and linking that in with a support person. So if somebody builds up the courage to say they think something's happening, which is a big step to report it, 20 days and then they get receipt, and I presume you can't get the support in place until it's been acknowledged that you've actually received it. So even though that's the Act's minimum, is there a reason it needs to be so long? Because that's 4 weeks, that's a month when you're sitting there wondering what the hell's happened, you know. At a human level, that seems quite cruel.
We have put in there about disclosures being able to access a support person through People and Culture. And it would be support, internal support or EAP, but we haven't specified any timeframes in this. So that's the maybe we need to say straight away as soon as the disclosure
That
is
would give me
made.
comfort. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're getting the support immediately, the actual receipt of the information.
It might be
Yeah.
with just.
Because the other thing too, getting totally paranoid, but that's what we're here for, is if the person that's receiving it isn't intending to take action for whatever reason, and the person is left hanging, you know, at least this says somewhere in here that the person receiving it has to take some form of immediate action, even if it is the pastoral support. Thank you.
The Official Information Act, so someone could actually ask for some official information. Would the person's name be removed?
Yeah. Yeah, well, and also under the terms of employment, you know, protect that.
Okay.
This is ignorance asking this question. If someone is complicit in some wrongdoing, but it also becomes the whistleblower, what is their protected status?
Does leave room to still take action against them. They're protected from any consequences of reporting, not from any consequences of acting.
Right.
So the disciplinary processes are still able to be followed and still allow for it.
So it's running fence around the actual reporting, whistleblowing. Yeah, thank you.
It's good. Yeah, I thought this was an excellent paper too, just to tell us the background, what process you've gone through as well. So it did occur to me, and this is part of the review we're talking about, is sort of the policy on policies. The policy when you look at it isn't clear who's the owner. And I think that's something that perhaps needs to be part of your policy templates, is that clarity. It's got department, but not who, as in a title. And that's something that could, if you bring that into the template, so all policies have to identify who's responsible for making sure this thing gets reviewed when it's meant to be reviewed. That can easily also be in the register. And that just helps keep everything a little bit. Because otherwise everyone sort of, oh, is that person? So that's a suggestion for perhaps to bring into the policy on policies.
That happens in December, but for sure we'll get some.
Yeah.
And through the chair, this was one that originally sat within my division that went to People and Culture, that Alex and I had quite a conversation around. I mean, it is probably a joint one, but maybe the better home is business support. So it is something that we do need to clarify, because I think ownership question didn't help with the lapse in this review. Yeah.
So all we're looking for is just that slight clarification that anyone making that disclosure can seek support.
That is how we would choose it anyway. So it's nothing
Yeah,
to
but
put
it's
into
just,
the
because
policy.
someone's going to read this if they're thinking, what can I going to do, that is some guidance. Really. So with that, are we happy to recommend, oh,
Sorry, just
no?
into my mind. Do we want to provide the disclosure with the opportunity for support? Because if they may not want people in culture to know, they may not want anyone to know. So we need to have the wording so that a manager doesn't go, right, I'm going to grab Rachel and you're going to, and suddenly, holy shit, we need to be able to say that opportunity's there rather than saying, this is what's going to happen. Just the wording thing there. You see the distinction? Just in appendix 1 at 43, provide disclosure with support, which we're now going to say is immediate as possible or whatever. So perhaps provide the disclosure with the option of support. Because saying providing with support, a manager could read that and go, right, this is the next thing I have to do is go and tell everyone or tell someone else. They may wish the exact opposite.
So just with option of support.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I'll shut up and
No?
briefly.
So with those changes, I'll move that we're recommending the policy.
Second that.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Next. Oh, and review.
Yeah. We were thinking of 3
3
years,
years.
so probably there's now that we pass out.
So.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Right. Yeah, risk management.
Risk management is relatively straightforward. It's gone through the same review process. We've checked in with activity managers on their feedback. They didn't suggest any changes. And the check on legislation, I note that the standard has been updated since the policy, or from the version that was in the policy that referred to the 2009 international standard and there's a 2018 standard. The main difference there is the new standard has a greater focus on an iterative feedback loop or going out to the organisation and seeking feedback when the policy is used, when risks are identified, and using that to update the policy. We felt that was a very good approach, so recommended that as the area of focus for the next 12 months. And the function has now moved from sitting with the risk manager independently to sitting as part of the general manager business supports portfolio. So it will next be reviewed in 12 months. And I'm today looking for any of your feedback or updates that you'd like to see tomorrow when I take it to council.
Okay, any discussion?
I had one finickety thing, and I think I've raised it last time as well. Through the chair, page 47 under scope, it says that reference to employees or staff in this policy include persons seconded to council. I don't believe that this covers or that includes elected members, but I just wondered whether, for clarity, maybe it should say does not include elected members. If I'm right that it doesn't, because persons seconded to council, bloody hell, I'm here every day. You know, that doesn't kind of limit what that term means. And if there is a specific limitation of elected members, perhaps we need to note that somewhere, maybe not there, but somewhere.
Elected members who put under persons seconded to council. And we've had quite a debate in my old Auckland council days with elected members were technically contractors, which under some acts are technically odd. However, there's no reason we couldn't put elected members in there as specifically where we want them. That's if you want them included or excluded.
I'm not sure what the Act allows or what the organisation wants. For me, I think one of the biggest risks we have is our elected members. But I don't know how you enforce any of the provisions of this policy to elected members, so as a pointless exercise. Not current, you know, people accepting.
Yeah, because I don't think it, I mean, it doesn't have any roles or responsibilities where elected members in the church.
I think they should be out. But it should be clear.
So persons seconded to council
Does not
include
elected members.
elected members.
Just in that
As
definition.
a clarification.
Yeah.
Through the chair, when I read this policy, I definitely see that the role of governance is the oversight of the risk policy, so it would be quite odd to include elected members within this
Yeah.
policy.
I firmly don't think we
Yeah, I
are,
think
but
it just
it just need to be,
does.
yeah.
The other thing, because I think this is, we're on a risk journey here. And when I read this, it occurred to me later, got the risk register. In here, we have on page 48, it says risk appetite, the level of risk that council is willing to accept in pursuit of its strategic objectives. So that's the definition. And down in risk reporting on page 50, it says risks that stand outside accepted tolerance levels. But nowhere in this policy does it tell me what the risk appetite is and who has the authority to accept risks and whether or not they are within or outside the tolerance levels. So I think that's, and it's because we're evolving, but that just seems to be the bit that is missing.
That's certainly the piece to roll and work on, so we'll for sure. I would at this stage say that the tolerance is being set by the owner of the policy, which in this case would be someone in the position. But we should clarify it into the policy exactly as you mentioned.
Yeah, so what do you mean by that in practice? Because we've got some of the risks in the register as sitting as, you've got whether they're considered in or out of tolerance.
I mean, in practice, if somebody was unsure whether the level of risk was acceptable or not, would be a call that would be taken to SARS level to be decided on. But that doesn't mean that's what we need to put into the policy. It's just like that now.
Yeah, because it says the level of risk that council is willing to accept rather than, yeah. So need.
So if I could comment, probably Higgins gave an advice to customers and, there's a number of decisions that are made sort of on an ongoing basis, and I think we, probably, it's about judgment, it's about experience and knowledge and judgment, and I think that there's probably a level that sits at an executive level in each space where they get the most knowledge of.
Yeah, but and it's really within the policy, how do you articulate that? Yeah. So perhaps we can recommend it as it is, but say that's the next piece of work that needs to get just looked at and how to encapsulate into the policy, because it's overdue.
It's overdue. But that's
Approval.
how I'd like our policies to work, that they're rolling over with work items for the next year as they evolve.
Yeah.
This is perfect.
Yeah. I think that would be the way to do it, because you need a risk appetite statement within your policy and clarity around who has that.
Yeah, it is quite difficult. It's something we look forward to.
Yeah. Okay. So with that on sort of the work plan, are we happy to approve the policy as it stands? Yeah. Okay, I'll so move.
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favour, aye. Yes.
Exactly.
Audit and internal audit update. Morning,
Like to take the report as read.
Mhm.
Just working through the issues that we've got. The first one is still pending, but we've got the work in progress and assets in a much better position to what they were a year ago. So Donna's over that, so I think that will be really good. The depreciation rates have been checked during the year. What have we got? The next one. The journals, we're reviewing them and signing them off each month. I think the last review that came through was when we had a few different staff and it was probably not quite followed through as we were rushing to get through, but that's all under control. The bank recs are also being done. The sensitive expenditure's okay. The contract administration manual, we don't have a business risk and procurement manager, so that's been sort of pushed aside. So that will hopefully be something we can work on in the next year. The 2020 management report proposal completed, and I've just found out the 2019 one is also done. It's now standard practice for third party to fill in an access agreement. So that's for all non-staff and IS vendors
Excellent.
under control.
Any questions on that? Very good, isn't it? You know, we ticked off by Audit New Zealand. If we just go back to the internal audit review of the program, page 61. So I think that was the other thing, just to query there about what we might think is worth prioritising. Here, so we've got procurement, information records management and procurement on this one, cyber security as well. So 2022-23 is capital expenditure on health and safety. We don't. So anything that everyone's happy with the program, I suppose that's the question, or anything in the red which all look sensible, but should they be brought forward? I'm comfortable with it, but we need to just put our mind to it. That's all.
The contract management, hopefully, after our review of the procurement audit, hopefully we'll be able to get all the contracts in one place, because right now they're all saved separately. So that hopefully will tidy up the contract management for the audit of that.
So that'll effectively bring it forward.
No, we'll be
ready for
well and truly ready for it by then.
Just have one thing, Madam Chair. So page 62, about 5 paragraphs down on the table, it says update to the sensitive expenditure policy. Then it says this, the updates to good practice for essential expenditure from OAG guidelines can be incorporated into the sensitive expenditure policy. And then it says completed and it says noted and closed. And I just queried to myself whether noted and closed means, because it says can be, and then it says it's noted. Does it mean it has been?
Yeah, good question.
Yes,
Has been.
yes, that was, yeah,
So actioned and closed rather than noted. Beautiful, thank you.
that's it.
That was me, Madam Chair.
All right, so we're just being asked to the report we received, and I'll move.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favour say aye. Yes, right. Thank you. So we're up to safety. Hello. Morning.
I take this report as the read.
Thank you.
I'll give you a brief overview from page 81 there, which is our COVID management has become sort of less operationally significant, perhaps even more so since we wrote this report. Our office has returned to full capacity. There has been some operational pressure due to sickness absence, but we have been able to manage that within our normal business as usual. We haven't had to close any of our services. I've also raised chemical and hazardous substance management as a focal point for the last quarter or during this reporting period. So I'm working with our activity managers to make sure we've got oversight in this area. So this is things like making sure we get our chemical registers centralised, that we've got offering consistent training to our staff and having good oversight in the area of risk. Another notable thing was that we had a notifiable injury during the reporting period. A worker cut a tendon in their hand while cutting hose pipe. The worker did have to go to hospital and then ultimately returned to work. They're going through ongoing treatment at the moment, physiotherapy. We identified through the incident investigation that they did not have the correct PPE or tools to be doing the cutting that they were cutting. So they've now been provided with that. And we've had a look at the systems for how they carry out their ad hoc work and make decisions on what they're going to do. And finally, in my summary, I've got, we're seeking proposals from audit and assurance providers for a health and safety systems audit, probably in that first half of 2022. I'm happy to take questions.
Okay. Questions?
If we didn't have pools, how would we look?
Don't encourage noise about polls, for goodness sake.
I'm sure I'd find something to tell you about.
So when you're talking about the chemical register and the hazards,
Yeah.
we're going to that gas injection system now. Will that reduce some of the concerns we've got around storing chlorine, or does it not change?
It does help because we're reducing the amount that we need to keep on site. The water team did raise that I should have a look at that plant to make sure that we've got a monitoring alert system in place to make sure that when the chlorinated water moves out of that system and into our wastewater reticulation, that it reaches certain levels that we're going to be able to, hit that trigger before it gets into our public system. That's the only thing they've raised to me.
I know they were slightly outside our target range, but the pools are just seems like everything happens at pools, doesn't it?
Everything does happen at pools, but they're my favourite to a certain extent because they're really great incident reporters. They will report anything to me, perhaps in a way our other areas of the business don't.
Yeah.
So they're different.
Visibility.
It does, and yeah, I'd say they're leading in terms of our incident reporting practice.
Thank you.
It's good to know. It's a great report. I just had one question, and it was when you said how with that significant incident,
Yeah.
that reviewed and provided the equipment to that department that was needed. And have you looked at other departments to make sure that they've all got the equipment they need, which is more sort of the prevention rather than
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, this is the slow road trip of Rachel around the business. So I'm moving through each of the business units. I recently went out with building control, and as part of that, I get to see the work that they do and include training and PPE as part of those conversations.
okay, that's good. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Where's Calvin Street?
Oh,
Calvin Street car park on page 84. We don't have it. I think it's Calman.
it is Kelvin.
I was,
I was sitting there yesterday going, yes, not the table.
and it's only now for this.
You will not believe how many times I've got that wrong. I have not been able to commit that to my long-term memory.
Understandable. At least you know we read it.
True.
Yes, I mean, great,
Yeah.
awesome.
You found it.
That was I'm still waiting for my chocolate fish.
Oh, well, I'll come and see you later. I've improved the amount of chocolate in the West Wing last week.
Ah, brilliant. Excellent.
I think this is excellent report.
It is.
Any more questions? No? I will move that the report be received.
A second.
Thank you. All those in favour say aye. Against?
Thank you.
Thank you. Delegations update. Thanks.
Good morning. I'll take this paper as read it. It's pretty straightforward. You're all aware there has been a restructure of the executive team, which will be formally, all positions will be replaced by the 21st of November. So what Saatchi has done, just in order to keep the business running, has made the 4 written delegations as set out in this paper. I just thought it was, given the level of delegations these roles have, I just thought it was quite prudent to bring it to this committee for oversight and any questions.
Yep.
What the plan is part of the new triennium, all the delegations get reviewed. So the idea is this will all get tidied up. I have put in the, or Saatchi put in when she sent it out, that these will expire the end of February or when the new policy is in place, whichever occurs the earliest. Any questions from anybody?
Any questions? I think it's great to have it reported through
Yeah.
to give that clarity.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
showing that the allegations are formally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And given that, 3 of them are up to 500,000,
Mm.
that was quite prudent, just for
Yeah.
that, so.
Yeah. Yeah,
I did have, sorry, I did have one thing, and it's probably not for dealing with now, but the Blossom Festival under the VCB has the chair and one other representative, and I'm just not sure whether we're talking about the chair of the Blossom Festival Committee or the chair of the, because maybe there's that weird thing like Martin being the manager. It may not be a problem into the future, but
Oh, no, because I'm sorry, through the chair.
No,
The delegations will be, David after the trial.
we're changing that.
Yeah. So I was changing those bits, but those other extra changes will come in the new trial.
That was what was making my bell ring, because I knew we discussed it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
couldn't remember what it was.
Yeah.
this is just.
But after the bell ring,
Yeah.
thank you. Forget I mentioned it, then yeah, it's under control, and you've got something to tell me about.
Excellent. No, good to check. Okay, well, with that, I will move that we receive the report.
I will second.
Thank you. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Oh, thank you. Right, chair's report. I have nothing to report. Members report? No?
From me, Madam Chair.
And we are now on the governance report. And that is just looking down. And I thought. So it might just be worth noting there. So with the December meeting, we will be getting, I think, the procurement policy. We'll discuss it later.
Mhm.
And the other one that would be coming to the December meeting is the fraud policy, I think is the one that's due, isn't it?
Yes, I think that there's definitely 2 coming to the next meeting.
Yeah.
So through the chair, so what we are planning to do with this forward work program is, because this is all standing items that come to you, is we had discussed as part of the policy reviews, the ones particularly of interest to the Audit and Risk Committee, actually putting those as line items under there.
That'd be great.
The other thing this committee had requested from memory on this was the water plans as well. So we'll have a look with this. It hasn't been done on this one, but as part of the new triennium, because it's probably not that helpful, because you get all these standing items every time.
Yeah, we just need to add the ones that are, as they get raised, and sort of, okay, that one's coming in December, that one's coming in February.
So Wayne and I will do a little bit of a tidy up, and Madam Chair, what we might do is just send it through to you as a draft.
Yeah.
Ahead of time,
Okay.
to get some feedback and then bring it to the full committee.
I mean, it's great to see the sample, and yeah, we just need that slightly more
Granular.
for the particular things. I'm happy with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Right, well, I will move that the report be received.
Second.
All those in favour say aye.
No.
Against? Right. Okay. And we're confirming the date of the next meeting. Right, we now have the resolution to exclude public. I will move.
I will second.
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Right.